The uniform was folded on the bench. Not hung. Not left in a pile the way equipment gets abandoned after a hard loss. Folded. Deliberately. With the kind of care that someone gives to something they are not sure they will ever wear again. Roki Sasaki's glove was sitting on top of it. Those who walked past that corner of the visiting clubhouse in the minutes after it happened described the image as something that stopped them. Not because of what it meant structurally, a pitcher leaving, a situation unraveling, a roster in the middle of a crisis it had not anticipated. But because of what it communicated about the person who had placed those things there so carefully before walking out. Roki Sasaki had not slammed a door. He had not raised his voice. He had not demanded anything from anyone in that room. He had folded his uniform. Set down his glove. And left. That image, quiet, deliberate, devastatingly final, was what the Dodgers were left with when the full weight of what Austin Rushing had done began to settle over everything. The demotion had been announced that morning. AAA. A level below where Rushing believed he belonged, a decision the organization had arrived at through the accumulated weight of recent events, the dugout incident with Ohtani, the words directed at Max Muncy, the pattern that had become impossible to explain away as isolated moments of pressure. The Dodgers had been patient. Patient longer, some inside the organization felt, than the situation had warranted. But patience had a boundary. Rushing was informed before the rest of the team knew. The conversation was private and direct. He was told what the decision was, what it meant for his immediate future, and what the organization expected from him in terms of his response. What the organization did not anticipate was what that response would look like. Not in words. Not at a press conference. Not in the carefully managed language of a professional athlete navigating a difficult moment in his career. In a hallway. With Roki Sasaki standing in front of him. The details of what happened emerged gradually, the way details from incidents that occur away from cameras always do, through accounts from those who were nearby, through the reconstruction of a sequence that moved faster than anyone could fully process in real time. Sasaki had been in the facility that morning for his regular preparation routine. Arm care. Film review. The methodical, unglamorous work that precedes every start and that he approaches with the same focus regardless of what else is happening around him. He had encountered Rushing in the hallway. What Rushing said first is not fully known. The account that emerged from multiple sources was that the exchange began with words, Rushing's words, directed at Sasaki, carrying the particular energy of someone who has just been told their professional future has contracted and is looking for a place to put that feeling. Sasaki had not responded aggressively. By every account available, he had attempted to disengage. To move past the moment without giving it more oxygen than it required. Rushing did not allow that. What happened next was physical. Not a fight in the traditional sense. Not the mutual escalation that occasionally erupts between players in the compressed environment of a professional sports facility. What happened was one-directional. Rushing moved toward Sasaki in a way that crossed the boundary between confrontation and something more serious. The contact that followed was enough that others in the hallway intervened immediately. Sasaki was not injured in any way that required medical attention. But he was shaken. In a way that went beyond the physical. In a way that those who saw his face in the moments after described as something they had not seen from him before, a kind of stillness that was not his usual composure but its opposite. The stillness of someone processing an experience they had not believed was possible inside a place they considered safe. Rushing's response, when others reached him after the intervention, was immediate and familiar in its ugliness. He shifted the blame. The specific shape of that shift changed slightly depending on who he was speaking to, but the structure remained consistent. Sasaki had provoked it. Sasaki had said something. Sasaki had been the one who created the conditions that made what happened inevitable. Those who had been in the hallway rejected that account entirely. There was no provocation from Sasaki. There was no exchange of words that escalated mutually. There was one person who had received difficult news and decided that the person standing nearest to him would absorb the consequences. That Rushing attempted to reassign responsibility for what he had done, in the immediate aftermath, while Sasaki was still in the building, was the detail that traveled fastest through the organization. Faster than the incident itself. Because the incident was shocking. But the response was something worse. It was the response of someone who understood exactly what they had done and chose, anyway, to try to make it someone else's problem. Sasaki returned to the clubhouse after the incident had been separated and addressed by team personnel. He did not speak to anyone at length. He moved through the space with the particular quietness of someone who has made a decision and is now in the process of executing it. Those who were present noticed his eyes first. Not angry. Not hardened into the expression that athletes wear when they are preparing to fight back against something. Wet. Roki Sasaki, who had taken the mound in the biggest games of the Dodgers season with the composure of someone who had been doing this his entire life, was crying. Not loudly. Not in a way that demanded attention or sympathy. Just the quiet tears of a person who had been treated in a way that no preparation had accounted for, in a place that was supposed to be, if not safe exactly, then at least governed by a basic code of professional conduct that made safety possible. He went to his locker. He removed his uniform. He folded it. He placed it on the bench. He set his glove on top. And then he walked out. The news reached Shohei Ohtani within the hour. What happened next was not dramatic in the visible sense. There was no confrontation. There was no public statement issued in the immediate aftermath. There was simply Ohtani, in conversation with team leadership, saying clearly and without ambiguity what his position was. He was done with rushing. Not as a competitor. Not as a former teammate whose career he would monitor with professional interest. Done in the complete sense, the kind of severing that leaves no door open for the future conversations and gradual rehabilitations that sometimes follow these situations when enough time has passed. He went further. He told the organization that he needed a different catcher. Not as an ultimatum issued from a position of leverage, though his leverage in that building is as significant as any player's leverage has ever been in the history of the sport. As a statement about what he required in order to continue doing his work at the level the Dodgers needed him to do it. The person behind the plate mattered. The relationship between a pitcher and a catcher was built on a particular kind of trust that could not be reconstructed from rubble. And what rushing had done, not only to Ohtani in the dugout weeks earlier, but now to Sasaki in a hallway with no cameras and no audience, had demonstrated something definitive about his character. Ohtani did not want that character behind his plate. The organization did not push back. Dave Roberts addressed the media that evening with the expression of a man who had spent the day inside decisions that had no version that felt clean or resolved. He confirmed the incident. He confirmed that rushing had been removed from the facility. He confirmed that the organization was cooperating with whatever processes the league required in response to what had occurred. A reporter asked whether Sasaki was still with the team. Roberts paused before answering. "We are in communication with Roki," he said carefully. "He is going through something difficult today. We are giving him the space he needs while making clear that this organization is fully behind him." Another reporter asked whether the uniform and glove left behind represented a formal departure, whether Sasaki was considering leaving the team entirely. Roberts' jaw tightened slightly. Roki is one of the most important people in this organization. What happened to him today should not have happened. It will not happen again. And we will do whatever it takes to make sure he knows that. He was asked about Ohtani's request for a new catcher. This time the pause was longer. "Shohei communicated his needs to us," Roberts said. "We take those communications seriously. We always have. We will respond accordingly." A reporter followed up, was the organization surprised by what rushing had done? Roberts looked at the table for a moment before answering. "I think we knew something was wrong," he said quietly. "I'm not sure any of us knew how wrong." Later, a veteran member of the coaching staff, speaking without attribution, in the way that people sometimes speak when they want something understood but cannot attach their name to the understanding, offered a description of the moment when they found Sasaki in the hallway after the incident. "He just kept saying he didn't understand," the coach said. "Not what rushing did. He understood that, unfortunately. What he didn't understand was why. He kept asking, why would someone do that here? In this place? To someone they played beside. The coach was quiet for a moment. I didn't have an answer for him. I still don't. There are things that happen in a baseball season that the sport is not designed to process. The sport is designed for failure and recovery. For the long schedule that absorbs bad nights and bad weeks and allows players to find themselves again on the other side of difficulty. For the particular resilience that develops in people who play 162 games and learn that no single moment is permanent. But what Austin Rushing did in that hallway was not a baseball failure. It was not a passed ball or a poor at-bat or a mechanical breakdown on the mound that extra work and coaching adjustments could address. It was a choice made by a person who had been told he was no longer wanted at one level and responded by trying to make someone else feel as diminished as he felt. He chose Roki Sasaki. And Roki Sasaki folded his uniform, set down his glove, and walked out of the building with tears on his face. Shohei Ohtani made his position clear before the day was over. Some things cannot be walked back. Some lines, once crossed, stay crossed. And some uniforms, folded that carefully and left that deliberately, say everything that words cannot.